He spent countless hours trying to acquire the right permits and comply with zoning requirements, only to get the runaround from City Hall.
It's just all these crazy restrictions for a treehouse that's 115 square feet. And it just became a nightmare trying to go back and forth between departments and the Department of Building and Safety.
Oftentimes on this channel, when we're talking about the issue of housing and whatnot, we will discuss places like the state of California and how they have an insurmountable amount of red tape that essentially will cripple anybody's ability to build anything. And a lot of times this is based on the fact that California allows average everyday residents to sue builders, sue developers, in order to stop them from obstructing their view or do some such thing that doesn't affect anything except for their preferences. Again, these people who can file these lawsuits, they don't buy the property that they want maintained in a certain way. They just live near it and then sue the person, the developer, in order to get them to stop developing their own land in order to prevent them from profiting off of it because of their own personal preferences. It is a ridiculous system, and it is one of the many reasons why it is impossible to do anything in the state of California. Well, an extreme example of this is this iconic treehouse that a Simpsons producer has had up on his property for 24 years. It has become famous in the region, drawing in celebrities and people from outside of the celebrity circles alike just to see this iconic treehouse and enjoy it. It's been featured on television and a bunch of other different places, but unfortunately for this Simpsons producer, this became the subject of not only a 7-year-long lawsuit and battle with the red tape that he has to deal with after just one complaint, but it's also been the subject of a criminal investigation, and essentially this iconic treehouse must be torn down in order for this person to avoid jail time in the state of California. Building a treehouse on your own property that's 115 square feet is something that can get you sent to jail, to prison. And that's even more crazy considering that actually committing crimes, robbing people and whatnot, won't get you sent to prison in the state of California. Now, we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about this. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
It is the final night for what may be one of the most iconic tree houses ever built. The Boney Island Treehouse in Sherman Oaks is scheduled to be torn down tomorrow after its owner endured a long, drawn-out legal battle with the city to keep it standing. The Simpsons producer who built the treehouse says he's had lots of support from the neighborhood, but in the end, you can't fight City Hall.
Rachel Menitoff is live in Sherman Oaks, where community is saying goodbye to Boney Island after 24 years. Rachel.
So right off the top, you could see that this particular treehouse is really cool. It looks really nice. There's obviously good seating inside of it. And again, it has been a staple in this particular community for a very long time. Now, of course, the local news has to drop the Simpsons puns right away, saying you can't fight City Hall, which we all appreciate right off the top because you gotta ham up the comedy because this is a Simpsons related story. Therefore, we all gotta joke and we all gotta have fun, even though it is very indicative of how difficult it is to do anything in the state of California. And by the way, a lot of people are going to say, Sean, you're referencing a Simpsons creator, a Simpsons producer, somebody who is involved in the Hollywood machine. And obviously, this is somebody who votes Democrat or likely votes or donates to the Democratic Party. And while that might 100% be the case, I'm not denying that. And I understand there's a certain level of you voted for this regulatory environment, now you have to live under it. But I also want you guys to realize that I'm talking about a Simpsons producer, somebody who's been on that show for 24 years, somebody who has the money, somebody who has the time, somebody who can hire lawyers in order to fight against these complaints, and yet he has been bogged down for 7 straight years in legal battles over this treehouse, spent tens of thousands of dollars on it, and all that's gotten him is a criminal investigation, the prospect of jail time based on the fact that he put something up on his own property, something that is iconic up on his own property, that has received praise, that has been on TV shows and all that, and even he can't beat the California regulatory environment. That is absolutely crazy.
The homeowner says it came to a point where the red tape, the restrictions, and finally the criminal charges were all too much to bear, and tonight he's been removing a lot of the props, the furniture, kind of having one last hurrah with the neighborhood kids, and says he's really sad to see this place go. Climbing through this whimsical maze, you notice the carefully constructed details. Sitting high above the Sherman Oaks treetops, it's an homage to childhood. And throughout the years, it's been updated with more adult features like a bar and a mini fridge of beers.
It just felt really nice and homey up here, you know.
Rick Polizzi, a former producer on the animated series The Simpsons, built the treehouse 24 years ago with his daughters in mind.
They would have their friends come over and play, and any neighbor that came by, we would say, come on up.
Now again, for everybody out there in the audience, understand that these are wealthy people that we're talking about. These are Hollywood people, but the story behind this, the story behind the story is actually quite wholesome. This guy ended up putting up this treehouse, which is absolutely epic, for his two daughters when they were little kids. It ended up becoming a feature in the neighborhood. They would bring other kids over, and everybody had a good time, and in 24 years, nobody has been injured, despite the fact that the treehouse is not up to some kind of zoning codes invented by the city in order to prevent anyone from building anything. Everybody had a good time for the longest time, and over time, as his children grew up, as they got older, he ended up making it more suitable as a hangout for adults, so essentially this treehouse grew up along with them. Again, quite a beautiful tale, quite a beautiful story, something that we can expect in the United States of America, but unfortunately, another thing that we can expect in the United States of America is for community to be eroded, is for community to end, for people to get the government involved, for busybodies to start cracking down, and of course, for California's epic amount of red tape to end up wrapping this guy up in a 7-year-long legal battle that, again, is not just civil, it's not just regulatory. The man is facing criminal charges. He could be arrested and put in jail if he continues to fight to keep this treehouse up, and that's absolute madness.
Everybody that you saw in movies and TV were always here with their families. People are saying, hey, is that Halle Berry up in the treehouse?
But Polizzi says legal troubles started when a neighbor complained about the increasing attention the homemade fort was drawing. For the past 7 years, he's been working to defend his treasured treehouse to the tune of $50,000 and even a criminal charge. The Hollywood producer says he's spent countless hours trying to acquire the right permits and comply with zoning requirements, only to get the runaround from City Hall.
So look, again, obviously, a lot of the people that are impacted by this are wealthy people. A lot of the people that are impacted by this are celebrities. But $50,000, 7 years of battling against the red tape, trying to bring it up to code, trying to get the permits, and all this guy is experiencing is getting the runaround. And I just want to remind you that even though we're talking about a celebrity situation right here, even though we're talking about somebody who has the money, who has the means, even he can't get through California's red tape. Even he can't defeat this. Even he cannot match the regulatory burdens of the nanny state in the state of California based on one neighbor complaining one time about the fact that the treehouse was getting too much attention for that neighbor's preference. Now, of course, nobody forced that neighbor to move into a property that was already well known in the area to have this treehouse present there. Again, 24 years going strong, but that one complaint ends up triggering a 7-year-long legal battle, and this guy's going to end up going to court just because he wanted to build something nice for his children 24 years ago. It's absolute madness. But again, this is what you can expect in the state of California. And you could just imagine if you weren't trying to build something that is for your kids to enjoy, for your kids to goof off in, how bad these regulatory burdens actually are when you're trying to build apartments or you're trying to expand your home or do anything that is normal in a normal neighborhood when you just don't have the money for compliance. And the fact that they give him the runaround with all this should not be surprising. Remember, we talked about how Donald Trump ended up visiting Los Angeles, ended up talking down to the mayor because he had heard from a bunch of different people that it would take 18 months just to clear the debris from the torn down homes due to the fire post the wildfires in the state of California. And Karen Bass promised that that was not going to be 18 months.
I met at least 8 groups of homeowners, and I'm much more worried about the fact that they said it's 18 months exactly, and they were devastated. They want to start now. They want to start removing things. They're not allowed to do it now. And you mentioned hazardous waste. Well, the hazardous waste, what's hazardous waste? I mean, you're going to have to define that. We're going to go through a whole series of questions on determining what's hazardous. Nope. I just think you have to allow the people to go on their site and start the process tonight.
And we will.
Okay, good.
You can come back and check.
Site 18 months. So if that's not the answer, Mayor Bass, what is the answer? Because that's what we were all told last night.
And let me just tell you that we are going to do everything we can, slashing regulations, expediting everything so that people can begin the process right away. You know, we have the Disaster Recovery Center on Pico and Westwood. We have building and safety there. People are already contacting the local agencies. We're bringing our city departments together so that people don't get caught in the loop of going from one room to the next. We want them all to be in the same room so that you can get busy rebuilding ASAP.
It was going to be a week, but what did we find out just a little bit later? That in fact, what's going to happen is that it will take 3 years minimum, 5 years around probably more accurately, to rebuild the homes in the Palisades area based on all the regulatory permits and restrictions and whatnot that you are required to get in order to do anything in the state of California.
I asked, what's a realistic timetable for rebuilding the Palisades?
3 years would probably be the fastest, but probably it would be more like 5. So it really depends on the individual circumstances.
Now, this is in Sherman Oaks. Obviously, I'm not saying that this is all Karen Bass's fault or anything of the sort, because remember, California has not only local municipality regulations and zoning and whatnot, they not only have the city ones, but they also have statewide ones and statewide laws that allow homeowners to sue anyone for anything, and it creates all kinds of chaos. And this is just a little bit of a taste of that. This is just one example of somebody who has the means, somebody who should be able to engage with the system and be successful. We're always told that money can get you through anything, but guess what? $50,000 in 7 years, not enough to get this man out of criminal charges. The only thing that will get him out of it is tearing down this structure.
Councilmember Nithya Raman sent us a statement saying she's limited in what she can say due to ongoing litigation, but she did write this: "Our goal has always been to find a pathway to preserve the treehouse, which has brought so much joy to neighbors, and our office is ready and eager to continue that work in cooperation with Mr. Polizzi." Polizzi, though, says months ago this same office told him there was nothing they could do, so he's resigned to take it down and say one final goodbye.
So here you have a city council member saying that the goal of her office and the goal of the city council is to make sure that this treehouse is preserved, and we're really into working with Mr. Polizzi, the guy at the center of this, in order to make sure that happens. Now, of course, we find out from the person, who's actually going through this, that he contacted this very same city council member, and her office said there's nothing that we can do, which is just a perfect example, a perfect distillation of city government, which is when you get attention on them, they say the right thing, but behind the scenes, they're actively working to destroy you. The city council could easily change these rules, and guess what? Problem would be solved. The city council could easily do something, carve out an exemption, propose a bill, anything of the sort, and guess what? The problem would be solved. But instead, what we end up seeing is that the city council is virtue signaling that they're definitely on board with helping this person, even though he's currently facing criminal charges for this. Again, criminal charges for this, not just fines and fees and, oh, you don't have the right permit for this. You might go to jail because you dared to build a treehouse for your children.
There's no reason for it. It's really not warranted. It's been up 24 years. We've never had one single incident. It just gets caught up in city red tape, and there's no way to untangle yourself from it.
Look, he's 100% right. There is no reason for this. It doesn't make any sense at all. They haven't had any incident, and the fact that there could be a potential incident should not be a reason to restrict anybody from doing anything. Obviously, we all understand that in some cases, anytime you do anything, you increase the level of risk of something happening down the line, but we should not have this preemption on the American people, stopping their imagination, stopping their desire to build, stopping their desire to expand, and it's absolutely tragic that we do. And again, this guy, probably a left-wing Democrat, probably voted for some of these very same people that put in these regulations, is probably upset about the evil orange man trying to cut back on regulations of a similar nature on the federal level. But the fact of the matter is, even he can't get through this, despite the fact that he has every advantage that you, the average Californian, would never have, that you, the average person living in a high regulatory environment, could never get around, and he's still stuck. He's still trapped. He still has to take this deal in order to avoid jail time, and that deal is just complete defeat.
Now, part of the agreement with the city is that once Rick demolishes the treehouse, the criminal charges against him will be dropped. So he has a construction crew coming out first thing tomorrow morning, and they're going to do exactly that.
Honestly, this is the sad state of the United States of America right now, and I will just remind everybody out there in the audience that the Empire State Building was built in under a year. Many of the iconic infrastructure projects of the United States of America were built on a similar time schedule, if not sooner, but the fact of the matter is, here in the United States of America, it takes now 7 years to adjudicate the legality of a treehouse, and it's still technically an illegal gray area in states like the state of California. And by the way, again, for those of you out there in the audience who think it's just blue states, it's just California, while California is definitely an extreme example of this, local zoning and local ordinances like this exist all over the country. They're ridiculous and absurd, and if you run afoul of the wrong regulator, if you run afoul of the wrong petty tyrant, guess what? You could end up under the gun, you could end up facing the scrutiny, and it could be devastating and ruinous to your life. This person honestly will be able to endure, he'll be able to get over it. He has already made himself a success in life for a long period of time, but the fact of the matter is, average everyday Californians, average everyday Americans run up against these kind of regulatory bodies each and every day in this country, and guess what? They don't prevail. They end up being driven into bankruptcy. A normal person having to spend $50,000 in order to defend themselves from regulators like this might lose their home as a consequence of it. But this guy is able to endure, and he still can't win. That's how crazy the state of California is. Now, of course, I want to know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute madness in the state of California. Till next time.